Thanks for tuning in to the Medevac podcast, powered by the Robert Irvine Foundation, whose mission is to support and strengthen the physical and mental well-being of our nation's heroes and their families. I'm one of your hosts, David Reid.
And I'm your other host, Christian Meyers. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Medevac podcast. If you're new here, there's a price for the show. You have to share it with a friend or family member if you get something out of today's episode. And today's episode is going to be pretty fun. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. We're doing a Reconnection episode, or Reconnection series, rather. So Our guest today is Bernie Copeland. He was in the Army from 1988 until 2013 as a combat medic. So he's a 68 Whiskey combat medic. He's got a fantastic story. If you missed part 1, go back, listen to part 1 with Ryan Leighton. It's going to fill in the story a little bit more, and we're going to hear about Bernie's side today. So welcome, Bernie.
Welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to dive right in with one of our favorite questions of the show is what inspired you to join the military? Was it family? Was it
A judge?
a judge? Yeah.
It's actually a very funny story. It's 2 days after Christmas, and my best friend called me up, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing today?" And I'm like, "Nothing. What are you doing?" He said, "Let's go join the National Guard." And I said, "Okay, let's go." And we went and joined,
Just there on the spot?
on the spot. No thought
That's funny.
whatsoever.
You didn't think about it at all before this?
No. It was just, okay, let's go.
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. So
And what year was this?
1988.
1988. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some things spinning up at this point
Right.
when you join, and you had no idea what you were getting into.
No idea whatsoever.
That's funny.
We went and saw the recruiter, and the recruiter's like, "Hey, what do you want to know?" And we're like, "Where do we sign at?" He goes, "I don't know how to do this." And we're like, "We want to join up, you know?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "So when can you go to basic?" And we're like, "Today."
Later today?
He said, "I can't make that happen. You got to go to MEPS first,
Sure.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, "We can go today." He goes, "Can't make that happen." He made a call, and he goes, "Can you go tomorrow?" We're like, "Sure." We went to the MEPS the next day,
No
done our
kidding.
physicals, signed in, and swore in, and
Yeah.
a week later we was headed to Fort Knox.
No
So,
kidding, right? Just like that, huh?
Yeah.
Did you have any family history in the military, or
I did,
Okay.
So
a dad or grandpa, or?
my dad was in the military.
Okay.
My stepdad was in the military.
Okay. So you had some
had-
experience with it.
I had one uncle done 3 tours in Vietnam, another uncle done 2 tours in Vietnam,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
so forth. But
So I got to ask, what were you doing prior to joining the military where you just had to run away so quickly?
I was going to Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville, Tennessee, and just needed a break.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
college wasn't for you?
no.
Yeah, well,
I get that.
Lo and behold, the military, it is.
Yeah. So
It's a good option for some people. I mean, I did the exact same thing. I did.
Same here.
Yeah, I did a semester of college and I didn't like it, so I joined halfway through that semester,
Right.
finished it out, and then left. Yeah, same
Yeah,
thing.
so-
It's not for everybody. That's funny.
Did you know what you wanted to do, or you just kind of fell into 68?
Well, originally I went in as a Bradley mechanic. Done that for 6 years. Hated being a mechanic. I'm not a mechanic. So, but on the civilian side, I went to EMT school and paramedic school.
Okay.
And then actually got out of the Guard for like 3 months, and they taught me into going back in as a 68 Whiskey, and rest is history.
Okay, so they brought you. Did you leave voluntarily and then join active duty, or did you get recalled?
I left voluntarily. I never was active duty. I was always National Guard. But
Okay, yeah.
But when I came back in, they're like, "Hey, if you come back in, we'll promote you to an E5." And they did as soon as I come in. And I'm one of the few medics that never went to Fort Sam.
Okay.
Because I was a civilian paramedic, and at that time they took OJT on the job
Okay,
training. So
yeah. Well, there probably wasn't much more to teach you at that point.
no,
Yeah.
there wasn't.
You
so,
probably had more experience than most of those medics at that
right.
point.
I did. Yeah.
So you went back in. So what year did you go back in as a 68?
I went back in 93.
93?
So,
Okay.
Yeah, I got out in 93 originally, and I went back in 93. So
Okay.
What did you do with your 3 months off?
nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I mean, 3 months is a lot to just sit there and be like, what am I going to do with my life?
It was, it was really boring. All my friends were at work and stuff. So
So did you think about going back to school?
I went back to school for a little while, and it's like, it's not for me. I'd rather work on an ambulance, So
Yeah. So is that what you did with your civilian job? You stayed on an ambulance for most of the time?
I was on an ambulance up until 2006, and then I started as a flight medic in
Okay.
2006 on the civilian side. Still am. So,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, who are you working with there?
I work with a company called Medevac Life Team. They got like 150 helicopters in 15 states. So.
Wow. I got
Now,
quite a fleet there.
Do you think that experience on the civilian side helped you?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah.
Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so the dust-off units used to, the only requirement to be a medic on a dust-off is just to be a 68 whiskey you had to be a nationally registered EMT.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got to looking at numbers, National Guard units that come through were heavy with civilian paramedics.
Mm.
And the patient outcome seemed to be a lot better with the Guard units.
Okay.
So the Army changed it in 2013 that all flight medics had to be nationally registered paramedics on the civilian side, and
maintain that currency.
maintain that, and then go through and get their critical care paramedic and flight paramedic certification also. So,
Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess since you're operating, you're doing your job full time at home.
right.
Whereas a combat medic, when they're home, they're maybe working in the hospital a little bit or doing rotations at the local hospital, maybe.
Yeah, they don't get near the training and stuff.
Yeah.
So
That keeps you sharp.
yeah,
So what unit were you at? You said you were National Guard the entire time,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming you were stationed right here in Tennessee.
I was when I was a ground medic. I was with a 278th Armored Cavalry Regiment in Tennessee.
Okay.
And then in 2011, I got offered an E7 slot to go to Medevac unit.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I got offered in August of 2010. I had just come back from Iraq as a ground medic
Okay.
in July of 2010. So when they called and offered me the E7 slot, they're like, "Hey, before you say yes or no, we are deploying to Afghanistan, and you will be eligible to be deployed." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take it."
Yeah.
So
So you went with it.
yeah.
So you went Iraq, came back, and then back to Afghanistan
Yeah.
pretty much right away.
Yeah.
That's a quick turn.
So before we get kind of into your deployments, I'm just very curious, being in Desert Storm and through 9/11, like how was that experience for you? What was the growth that you saw in the military? The difference in training that you saw within the medics community?
Within the medic community, a lot of the, when I first got in the medic section in '93, we done almost no training whatsoever medic-wise, When we go to do our annual training and stuff, we would just go out and support the troops, but we didn't do any training.
So you're just out there holding bandages and water,
Yeah,
basically?
that's it, and handing out Ranger candy,
Yeah. Here's your Motrin.
Motrin, tell people drink water, change their socks, so
Yeah.
that was basically it. And then after Desert Storm, they got to thinking, hey, we need to probably up medic training because they're needed, know.
Absolutely.
And then 2002, right after the invasion, our regiment went to NTC, and we were already scheduled to go to NTC, But a lot of the upper, like squadron leaders and stuff, still thought of the medics as they don't do anything, And we had some really good OCs there. It's like, hey, sometime or another, you guys are going to be in combat, and these guys are going to be saving your butts. You need to treat them as medics, And so,
Absolutely.
so they started, increasing funding for medic training and stuff. Actually sent us to Fort Sam for some additional training,
Okay.
So,
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
So how quickly did you find yourself being deployed to the Middle East?
My first deployment was 2004.
Okay. So sandbags on the Humvees and just
Yes.
no logistics at all.
Actually, the 278th, we were in Camp Udari in Kuwait, and so I can't think of the Secretary of Defense came over.
Okay.
Somebody from the 278th asked him. He was at a speaking and stuff, and of course CNN, Fox, and everybody were there. and somebody asked, why we were when we were going to get actual vehicles that would protect us instead of using hillbilly armor,
Yeah, yeah.
Because we were going out in the scrap yards in Kuwait and getting sheet metal and stuff and just welding on the side of the doors.
Yeah, as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he make a difference?
Not long after that, yes.
Wow,
They're
okay.
like, they
Needs
started
to
getting,
happen. Yeah, and then the IEDs just started getting blowing up.
yeah, so I went into Iraq in November of 04.
Mm-hmm.
I went in by ground. Most of our guys, they flew in on Chinooks to the FOB we were going to, but a certain number of us went on convoy, so we went up Route Tampa,
Okay.
and I'm riding an LNTV that's got sandbags in the floor, and I got a 1/4-inch piece of sheet metal in the window, and that was my up armor, so.
Yeah, that's your armor for the day.
Yeah, that's my armor for the day, so.
Whew. Yeah, I guess that would have been Colin Powell, who probably...
No, it wasn't Colin
right?
Powell. It was,
at the time?
Right before him.
yeah, he was
Yeah, okay. 04.
Secretary of Defense. He was under Bush, but I can't think of his.
I wonder who that was.
Yeah, back then I didn't care.
Yeah, didn't
Yeah.
make too much of a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the funniest thing, like while in the military, you just like anyone who's like 2 ranks above you, it just
Yeah.
doesn't matter, right?
Right, yeah,
Doesn't make a difference.
so.
But it does make the biggest difference in the world
Right.
when you're like, and I'm sure that was just an off the cuff response too. Is like, what do you need from us?
Right.
When we need armor.
Well,
Armor would be nice.
there was a embedded reporter from Chattanooga that went with the 278th, and the reporters wasn't allowed to ask anything, so he had one of the guys to ask this question.
Oh, yeah.
So
Smart.
yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, you ask this
Yeah.
question real quick.
Yeah, he had some specialist to ask this question. That's like,
Yeah. He ain't scared.
yeah.
So how was that deployment for you? Did you brush off a lot of that training? I mean, were you out often? Like, how was that for you?
I was out quite a bit. I would go out with the guys, quite a bit. So the training come in really, really well, so.
And you're probably, this paramedic training, has helped you keep cool, calm, and collective
Yes,
while moving
yeah,
on. And
yeah.
that experience has definitely amped you up a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, that's got to be crucial, especially if you're not getting the training,
Right, yeah,
pre 9/11.
Yeah. Who were you supporting on that deployment?
We were actually on a FOB. Was this all National Guard people? We were doing full spectrum ops.
Okay.
So,
So kind of isolated to your own FOB then.
yeah.
So you guys
and
had your own infantry there and...
We did, and we had about 900 Tennessee Guardsmen on this FOB, and
Okay.
we had one infantry company from Wisconsin with us, but we would go out and do daily patrols in the towns around us and so forth, and
So daily foot patrols, that was...
daily foot patrols,
Okay.
and and stuff. So
Was that the Hearts and Mind time frame?
No.
It was a little bit later, right?
Yeah, 2010,
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
surge.
Yeah, second surge. Okay.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't Hearts and Minds back then,
Yeah.
because it was the Wild West.
2004, 2005, when you drive down the road, you would drive in the middle of the road, and if somebody coming, if
Yep.
if they didn't run off the road,
Yeah.
you would open fire on them, or,
Yep.
Yeah.
so
Force them off the road.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, to tell our audience as well, is that that's just how it was. That was the SOP back then, because you would just get V-bids, all these
Yeah.
guys that would come at you. So you had to do it for the safety of the team.
yes, yeah,
And it's baffling. You talk about it now, and a lot of people are like, "What? You just open fire on
Yeah.
random?" Well, no. These guys are coming at you. They got to know to move out of the way.
Yeah.
right. Same token, the last vehicle, the gunner on the last vehicle, if a vehicle got too close, he would put in rounds into the ground first,
Yeah.
and then if they kept coming,
Yeah, we'd give them,
Walk out.
we'd give them the good old red lays first, and 2 seconds later, if you don't like slam on the brakes. Yeah. So that's it's just a different time. So dealing with that deployment and no injuries on your end.
no, but our squadron lost 6 people on that deployment.
Okay.
Wow.
So that was a heavy deployment.
Yeah,
for you.
it was. Yeah,
And the first one.
yes,
So that had to be extremely eye-opening.
it was. Yeah, yeah.
Was there any mental preparation before that, or was it just like, this is real, now I'm feeling it?
It's like, this is real, now I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you go back home,
Yeah.
From this deployment after losing 6 people. And it's a little bit different. Now you're in the civilian side of things
Right.
too, going back to your job.
Right.
How did you find the way to cope back into that?
I don't know. I didn't really have any problems, you know.
It was just, you had seen quite a few things as a paramedic.
Right. So, that really prepared me for the deployment, you know, so.
Yeah.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understanding you're not going to end up saving everyone.
Right. Yeah.
It's a little bit harder going into that if you've never done it before.
Right,
Or if it's your
yeah.
first time in combat. Yeah, it can be a little
Right.
bit more difficult, but I see how that would play into it, definitely.
So you come back, do some more training, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
what's the timeline looking like before deploying again?
Come back, done some more training, and then deployed again in 2010 back to Iraq as a ground medic. I tell everybody that was a vacation. We went to Balad for 6 months, and we were doing convoy security, so we'd only go out one night a week,
Oh, that's not bad.
and had 6 nights a week off. So
Fat camp, basically. Yeah.
yeah, but one night a week we would be like midnight. We would be driving through Baghdad and stuff, escorting vehicles and stuff. But
Okay.
squadron had no injuries that deployment, so.
Which has got to be a huge relief after
Oh,
the first
absolutely,
one.
yeah.
Because
yeah.
you build that up and you have 6 years to build
Right.
that up too. Is what do I expect?
Right.
So sharpening your skills, doing
Right.
all the training to lead up
Right.
to that, being the best you can, I'm assuming, and then getting there and it was anticlimactic.
Right, yeah, but
Which is a good
it
day.
really was. But I was a senior medic in 2010 with a infantry company, and all these guys are 19, 20 years old, just out of basic,
Yeah.
and they're all wanting to do something, and
Yeah. Understandably.
the only time they actually got to fire their weapons was in the, when you'd leave the fob, you would do a weapons check,
Oh, yeah.
and they'd get to shoot 50 cal then, that was it,
Yeah.
so they
That-
were.
it's always the worst too for an infantryman because you have to clean your weapon right after.
Right, yeah.
Every time, yeah.
So,
I remember specifically being in combat. I'm like, do I want to shoot because I'm gonna have to clean my rifle?
yeah, yeah. So, but,
Yeah, but that's a funny thing too. Is you see in the younger guys going in as they're just ready for it, and then when you get to it, you're like, oof,
right.
let's not do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all that mental preparation prepared you for the worst, but you got to hope for the best on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was how long that deployment?
that was only 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
And you're back home and then went down range again.
Yeah.
Within 2 years.
Yeah. I went back down range and deployed in March of 2012
Okay.
with
So
Medevac.
you have an ample amount of experience at this point.
Yes.
Right? And you've been with the Guard at how long at this point?
At this point, I've been with the Guard 23 years. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
Substantial
yeah,
amount
24
of time.
years. Yeah.
So I'm sure that your kind of mission parameters changed to help and train the younger
Yeah. Absolutely.
folks
Yes.
coming
Yeah.
in and
Yeah.
getting your leadership experience there.
Right. Yeah.
So 2012 is the deployment.
Yes.
Where shit just goes
Yes.
crazy
Yes.
from there.
Yeah.
And so let's paint the scene. So you get back home, you do your training, and it's a quick turnaround.
Quick turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how's that deployment look?
We knew we were going to be busy, but nobody had any idea how busy or exactly what we would be doing. My Medevac unit, probably 75% of them had never deployed before.
Oh, wow.
So I'm on my third deployment.
They're relying on you.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, it's piece of cake, But
Yeah. The last one was
The
easy.
last one.
yeah, and
It's like an emotional roller coaster. The first one, you just got to prepare for the worst.
right, and pilot wise, like on the civilian side where I fly at, a pilot has to have 2,000 hours flight hours before they can apply for the job.
Sure.
And my Medevac unit, over half the pilots had less than 300 hours flight time.
Oh, man.
So it's like
Yeah.
I'm flying with guys that don't know how to fly, but they were awesome pilots. But it's just
Yeah, 300 hours of solid training at least, right?
Yeah. So
those are really low hours to be flying out in combat with.
Yeah.
So are they relying on you guys in the back a little bit more with your experience? Because obviously you've been flying for a couple of years at that point.
So the pilot in charge, most of them were, of course, you fly with 2 pilots in the Black Hawk. The PC would have 1,000+ hours. So,
Okay, that's good.
But
Most of the co-pilots.
most of the co-pilots had
Pretty
less than 300 hours.
Yeah.
So
Was that something that kept you on edge?
it did at first, and then I got faith in my pilots extremely quick, so.
Yeah, build up that crew resource.
Right,
Yeah.
How did that feel going from ground to helicopter?
Of course, I was flying on the civilian side, so
Yeah.
I really, really love flying, so.
Yeah. Also, just being away from the IEDs, I think.
Yeah,
That's a huge.
Being away from the IEDs, and of course, we first got in country. Every time a helicopter flies, it gets shot at, But after like the first week of that, you're like, they can't hit us, so it's no worry, So,
Yeah.
That's a good mentality to have.
flying with MVGs, in that time, you would see the machine gun fire in the air at the helicopters, but you're like,
Can't see us.
they can't see us,
Yeah.
And then I tell everybody that good thing Afghanis didn't know how to duck hunt because they don't know how to lead,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Also true. Yeah, I remember someone shooting at us broad daylight. It must have been noon. We're flying at like 1,500 feet. Watch this guy.
Yeah.
You see a little silhouette like walk out. He walks outside of his hut, walks back inside, grabs something, walks
Yeah.
back out, aims up at us, and I see just little flashes. I'm like, really? Like,
yeah, and
what are you shooting at? They're not going to hit us from there, dude.
they're not leading you, so they're shooting at the aircraft, and you're
Yeah.
way past it when the bullet gets there. So it's
500 meters behind you by
yeah.
the time it gets
Yeah.
there.
So-
Just laugh at them. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to hit us, man.
So you're spun up, and you're on the bird. You're probably the most experienced at this point.
I am, yes.
You're a little skeptical about the piloting, but they proved
Yeah,
themselves.
absolutely.
And how does that roll out? Like, are you going out on a nightly basis? Like you said, it amplified quite substantially
Right.
from your second deployment.
A little perspective, my unit, we were there for 9 months. We were on 4 FOBs. Had a total of 15 aircraft on 4 FOBs, but you had first up, second up, third up, and fourth up. And but we flew 975 patients in the 9 months.
Wow.
So
Wow.
That's a lot.
970 of them was trauma patients.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you're doing a couple a night.
yeah.
On
So,
average.
Yeah. So
That's a busy deployment. Where were you flying out of? Because I know you were in RC South, right?
I was in Helmand Province.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a fun one.
We were on Marine FOBs. That's where our Medevac unit was. So,
So you're on Bastion or Leatherneck?
no, we were on the little bitty FOBs. We were.
Oh, okay.
I was. We had bases at Dwyer,
Yeah.
Delaram, Fob Payne,
Yeah.
and Shukvani.
Yep.
It used to be Edinburgh, and then they changed it to Shukvani.
Yeah. Shukvani. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was at a Bastion the year after
Yeah.
you. So yeah, spent
Yeah.
a lot of time in that area.
yeah.
It's not a fun area.
Yeah, that's like right smack dab in the middle of the Hearts and Minds campaign. So like the rules of engagement changes quite substantially. I'm sure you didn't
Right.
see a lot of that change.
No,
But you definitely saw an influx of injury, though.
oh yes, yeah.
And that's an interesting one, too. Just understanding the SOPs that go into it, and then all of a sudden the injuries go up
Right.
and the wounded goes up. Because, the rules of engagement we got briefed on was just like, you won't fire unless they're
Yeah.
firing back at you.
Yeah.
And it obviously
Yeah.
changed quite. The vehicle's coming at me, I'll just
Yeah.
clear them out with some gunfire,
Yeah.
and that went out the window.
Yeah.
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 So interesting just hearing that from a medic perspective of
Yeah,
seeing
I
those
mean,
numbers
like-
go up.
Yeah.
In 2010, when we were out on the road, you could not fire back unless you could positively ID the person that fired at you. So in other words,
And I'm definitely looking very closely at who's firing.
yeah, you know,
While they're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
so-
I'm just going to peek real quick.
Yeah.
I can hear the bullets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but-
Just need to make sure you're shooting at me.
yeah. But
So-
you can't shoot back. It's
What was,
basically
what was the stipulations? You had to see the white of their eyes?
pretty
More or
much. Yeah,
less.
It's wild.
So
It's wild to think about, like, putting stipulations on wartime environment like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's awesome.
So let's talk about that night. So you get you are obviously burned out. You got to be at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just running on empty.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
900 plus individuals. So this is just another routine call to you.
Well, so actually, they took our Medevac unit, took a couple of aircraft. They took the most experienced people, and we went to a little SF compound outpost outside of FOB TK, and I think it was called Camp Cobra, where we were at.
Yeah.
So we took 2 Medevac aircraft there. We had no chase birds, so we were there to support the Aussies was going to they were going to raid a Taliban training camp, So, of course, when we're there for it, it's zero moon, which it's extremely dark in Afghanistan. So
Good
no
for
illumination.
ground, bad for pilots.
Yeah, so zero illumination, and so the night it kicked off, we're actually sitting in the operations tent of the SF compound, and it first comes over the radio that a Osprey had crashed with 28 Australians on board, So we're scrambling to get the aircraft, and then we found out it was Marine Huey that had crashed. So, we I don't know if you know how. I don't know whether Pedro done this the same way or not. Medevac, you couldn't launch until you got launch approval,
Yeah.
So we're sitting there spooled up waiting for them to go, hey, you can launch, so.
Yeah, waiting for command authority.
Yeah, so.
So you're following this objective.
Yes.
You're following this operation.
Yes.
You're assigned to it.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you're in the TOC watching the ISR footage of this.
Yeah.
And it's got to be centric on the objective.
Yes.
So, what did you feel before that? Did you have any weird feelings about this one?
I did not know.
It's just routine.
Just routine,
More like chomping at the bit to go.
Yeah,
waiting
absolutely. You're just like.
Yeah, it's usually if you're waiting for command or launch authority, you're sitting there you're watching it happen. We can be there right now. What are you waiting for?
Yeah,
And
so.
some colonel or general has to check his boxes beforehand. They usually want to make sure that the helicopter didn't get shot down and send another one right in for a SAR trap.
Right.
It was pretty common, mid 2000s, late 2000s, early 2010s. They were doing SAR traps, so they'd shoot something down. They wouldn't do anything else to the survivors. They'd let them, sit there and wait for Medevac to show up, and they'd blow up the Medevac bird.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
They, I guess they got rewards for.
Oh yeah.
For shooting a Medevac bird.
Oh yeah, big time.
So, and we had the Red Cross on the side, as a good target. I mean.
Yeah, it's easy to aim at.
Man. So you hear the bird goes down.
Yes.
You think 28 are on board?
Well, they first tell us the Osprey had crashed with 28 Australians on board.
Okay.
So we didn't know until after we launched that it was a Marine Huey that had crashed. And said, and they told us then, that 2 Australian snipers had been killed in the crash.
And this is before launch approval.
This is just right after launch approval.
Okay. So you're en route.
We're en route. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're getting intel in flight.
Yeah, we are. So, of course, we're going to a place we'd never been to. We had to climb to 13,000 foot to get through a mountain pass. And then since we went through the mountain pass, we pretty much had to auto-rotate down to the LZ.
Yeah.
And of course, with the NVGs on, when it's so dark like that with no light, it's almost like looking at snow. It's really, so.
All the scintillation everywhere. Yeah, little specks.
And so, we knew there was an AC-130 overhead. So we had them to sparkle to light up the LZ for us,
Okay.
And so, of course, we got our rotate down. And our first attempt to land, at about 50 foot, we had a complete brownout, So there was a captain on the controls at the time. We had a CW5 with us, The captain aborted. The CW5's like, hey, I got the controls. He come back around really quick, and he's like, "This place doesn't look as dusty," and he just slammed us on the ground at like a 12-degree bank angle.
Incline? Oh, man.
I mean, he's like, within 15 seconds, we're sitting there, and so they come with the 4 Marines, and of course, Ryan was on a stretcher. The other 3 were ambulatory,
Yeah.
So, we, they told us that Ryan, of course, like I say, it rolled over Ryan as well.
Mm-hmm.
They told us that Ryan actually dug himself out and got the other 3 Marines out of the aircraft before he went down. So, so then they brought him to us and
Loaded him up in the helicopter?
loaded him up in the helicopter. We flew him to TK, to the...
At this point, Pedro was long gone, right?
No,
They didn't
Pedro
go
was still
down.
there.
Okay, Pedro was still there.
Pedro come back in, and they recovered the 2 Aussies and
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah, from our understanding, they dropped off a couple of PJs who did the exfiltration,
Yeah.
or the extraction rather,
yeah,
while the other 2 guys walked Ryan down the hill to where you guys met
Yeah.
them, right?
And when you get on scene, what's going on through your head? What are you seeing? What are you triaging? Like, paint that picture a little bit.
okay. So as soon as we land, we the medics never got out of the aircraft. We would sling the door open, and they would come and throw the patient in the aircraft. And as soon as I shut the door, I'd be like, "Let's roll," So then I would start. I started working on Ryan, triaging Ryan, and I had another medic with me, and she started triaging others as well, and stuff.
And what are the injuries that you're seeing?
The only thing with Ryan, he was severe pain. I didn't see anything physical-wise, but he was in severe back pain, So
Yeah. And what do you do for that? Like, you just give him a fentanyl pop? But he's got his jaw was broken too, right?
I don't know. I don't remember that. I just know that he was severe back pain, So it was only like a 5-minute flight. I don't remember us giving him anything for pain just because it was so quick. And
Such a short flight.
such a short flight,
So you guys flew him back to TK and then transloaded him from there?
We flew back to TK. Of course, TK had their own Medevac. We left and we went back to the Camp Cobra to be back.
And then go back up on alert, right?
Go back on alert, yeah.
So, I mean, it was just another ambulance service.
Yeah.
That's how it felt,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Except, I mean, I'm sure it was a little bit more real when we recognized that it's Americans, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then it's even more real because it was a helicopter crash, and you're flying in helicopters. So, you really have a close connection with helicopter people, so.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we picked up a little bird that had crashed right outside of Kandahar in 2013. It was a husband and wife that were in formation flight, and the wife's little bird went down. And so he was first on scene, and we were second on scene. Like, there's a weird connection you have with the other rotary wing people. When you see a helicopter goes down, everyone stops. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's good reminder that these can ball up really quickly, and like this is quite dangerous to be flying these around in hot, high altitude, dusty environments.
Absolutely.
These little things can take you out real quick.
And you had a bird go down, right? So your pilots were probably a little more on edge than usual.
They were. The CW5, he had over 10,000 hours flight time in a Black Hawk, So,
Okay.
You get a CW5, you're probably okay.
He'd been on multiple deployments,
Sure.
So
Probably through Vietnam too.
he hadn't been in that long, but I mean, he'd flown Hueys, Black Hawks. He'd flown Cobras. He flew Sherpas.
It's a pilot you can trust. Then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's reassuring. So it's interesting to build the picture like this, that the most influential or the most pivotal night of someone else's life can just be 5-10 minutes for you.
Right.
And it makes not a whole lot of a difference, because from your perspective, Ryan's injuries weren't grave. He wasn't dying immediately. It was a quick flight there, quick flight back, and that's just it's routine almost.
Almost, yes.
But for him, from his perspective, it's the most.
His
His entire life changed,
Right.
And
Yeah.
in that 5 minutes for
Yeah.
you, his entire life changed. It's weird to build that perspective out, but I'm sure you have a couple. I'm sure you have a couple pickups or a couple memories that really stand out, that are really pointed to you, that might have changed your perspective on some things.
I do, yeah.
Was there anything on that deployment that stood out specifically?
You know, I flew a little 2-year-old girl who was an IED blast, lost both her legs, and one arm was degloved and lost her thumb off the other. You know,
Wow.
we actually followed up with her. She had a complete recovery, and you know, so
It's incredible.
yeah,
Those ones were a little bit more difficult dealing with the kids, but it's something not a lot of people realize is, Afghanistan, is it a war zone? Absolutely. But
Yeah.
there's also families that
yeah.
just
We flew
live out
civilians
here.
as well. You
Yeah.
know, so
quite often, I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah, dealing with the kids was, that was
Yeah.
a little bit more difficult on my end too. Doing the best you can for them, but at the same time, like, there should not be children in a war zone environment, and here they are.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that resonates. I mean, in the military, you're picking up the troops that you expect.
Yeah.
They know what they signed up for, and to see the collateral damage outside of that, it's just really eye-opening as well. Did you have kids at the time?
Yes. Yeah.
So that probably just
yeah.
resonated with you in
Yeah.
a different way as well. Yeah. So, like during your deployment, was there any moments where you felt like, you might not be making it back home?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we flew a Afghani soldier into the capital city of Helmand Province, Lashkar-Gah,
Yeah.
and there was a little British outpost there, and so it was our first time flying in there, and as you fly in, of course, you're flying at 100 foot above the buildings,
Yeah. It's
And
a
it-
built-up city there,
yeah,
too.
and it looks like the first time flying in there, it looked like the scene of going into Mogadishu, you know.
Yeah.
And we're just like, all of us, none of us had ever been there before. And we're all like, oh, crap, So we drop our patient off as soon as we lift out of this little British outpost, and of course, I mean, anytime you took off, the pilots are yanking and banking, And as we take off and we maybe get 200 meters away from the British outpost, I see this guy come out from behind a tree with RPG, and I just see this bright flash, and it went right behind us, So,
Yep. Right through the tail.
I mean, it just missed the tail, just
Yeah.
went between the two aircraft, and we're just like, crap,
And it happens so quickly.
Yeah, it does.
From the flash to the time it went through the tail.
Yeah.
How long was that? Less than a second?
Yeah,
No time to react. No
No,
time to.
no.
Yeah.
When I seen a guy step out, I mean, I didn't even have time to say RPG or anything, it's just like, as soon as he stepped out, it's just like he fired, and
Yeah. I had something very similar happen at Lashkar-Gah, same area. We were on approach into Lashkar-Gah,
Yeah.
though, and saw a flash from underneath us and a trail of
Yeah.
white smoke, but it was so quick. You get up on comms like,
Yeah.
never mind, continue.
Yeah.
He's already gone. Like,
yeah,
like we avoided it.
Happens quick.
Yeah.
My 47 was hit by an RPG, and that was like, it was just like, no, you don't expect it,
Yeah.
right? It's just a knock on the door.
yeah.
That's from our perspectives, we're bolted in the back, with all
Yeah.
our gear, and just everybody's just all sardines,
Yeah.
And but RPGs, man, those are wicked
Yeah.
things. I had a buddy too that was get a little off topic, but the fin of the RPG severed his leg. It was so close to him.
Yeah.
And you just hear all these horrendous stories of these things. People think like it's like the movies where they shoot it and you have time to
Yeah,
maneuver the plane, and
Yeah.
they just do not move that
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So eye-opening experiences. So you probably felt the heart rate on that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then what was your response to that? Like, I mean, you're still in the mix of it,
right.
right?
I mean, I'm first like, oh crap, RPG, and I start to say something, I don't say anything because we don't have time to react,
Yeah.
And then when it missed us, I'm like, holy crap, you guys see that? And of course, I'm sitting on the left seat, crew seat of the aircraft, The pilot on the left side, he goes, oh yeah, I saw it, and it's,
Yeah.
but we're just like, they missed, and
Couldn't do anything about it.
yeah, so
Whew.
Yeah, that's crazy, and I'm sure there was quite a few of those close calls.
There was, yeah.
But never a down bird on your end.
No.
And anyone injured in your crew before?
No.
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we done the whole 9-month deployment with 0 injuries or anything. So
Wow.
yeah,
Was that your last deployment?
it was. Yeah,
And did you decide to get out after that, or?
I did. I got home, December 2012, and I'm like, April 2013. I'm like, I got up one morning. I'm like, I'm done.
What was the biggest deciding factor for you?
I just woke up and was like, I'm done.
Just like when you joined,
yeah.
you're going to exit the same way.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and did a lot of these faces come back to play, like the girl, into your decision, or was it just
No.
like, I'm going to count my blessings right now and be done?
I'm just going to count my blessings and be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, you had been in for over 25
Been in,
years. Right?
over 25 years. So I'm like,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that's enough service at that
Yeah.
point. You're also doing the same exact job on the civilian side.
I'd always said I was going to stay in as long as I was healthy and happy, you know, which I was, and then I'm like, I got up one morning and I'm like, just don't do it anymore. So, yeah.
Well, it's the right time then, which is a good thing, because not a lot of people get that opportunity to make the decision for themselves, especially at 25 years.
Right.
Not a lot of people make it to even close to 25 years.
Oh, I know.
And make the decision for themselves. Usually it's 25 years are like, hey, you're a little broken. You need to
also
be on your way.
25 years of picking up individuals who don't have that option too.
Yeah.
Like that's gotta mean something as well. I mean, I just have to ask, did you feel bulletproof?
No. Well, some days I did, but, but, I mean, there's a lot of mornings you'd get up and you're like, is today the day,
Yeah. Yeah, because luck can only get you so far, right?
Yeah.
And just so you had a family at the time,
Yeah.
and that's probably the most reasonable choice to make as well.
Yeah, I was single at the time, but I had 2 kids, and I'm just like, which made them very happy when I retired.
I'm sure.
So,
Yeah. Get dad away from the danger a little bit.
Yeah.
So over the course, so you've been a paramedic for
I've been a paramedic for over 30 years.
30 years now.
Yeah.
So over your 30-year career, what has been the most efficient way for you to deal with things like mental health? So dealing with the things that you encounter, the problems you're trying to fix for people, trying to save people's lives, losing people, whatever it is there an approach that you take to compartmentalize or to help process that, or is it just something that comes naturally for you?
I think it's something that comes natural, but I have a lot of hobbies, I hunt, I fish, ride motorcycles, camp, so.
So there's nothing that really sets it apart that you're able to deal with those things. It came naturally for you, huh?
It just came naturally, yeah.
Wonder if that comes from that a service mindset, or you're there to provide something and you're doing the best you can for other people.
I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you're staying on top of your training to make sure you can provide the best solutions for them, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you didn't struggle with any post-traumatic stress? Any substance
actually,
abuse?
when I came back 2013, I did have PTSD,
Okay.
for like 6, 7, 8 months. I don't care where I was at, how big a crowd I was in or whatever. I always just felt like I was alone,
Sure.
Yeah.
So.
And do you still feel that way sometimes? I imagine.
No, not really, but
Yeah.
it took me probably a year to get over that feeling,
And
Okay.
what helped?
I don't know.
You just got over it naturally.
Yeah. When I was around my kids, I didn't feel alone, but other than that,
See, it's very curious that something we see quite often with our medical professionals is they have a tendency to be a little less affected by this. And I think that Christian nailed it on the head as well, is that, you're going in to save lives, not take lives.
Right.
So that's a huge difference.
Right.
And we know from just countless stories that even taking the lives of an enemy affects you negatively.
Right.
But to go in and do your best to bring back those who are going out and sacrificing so much as well has got to be a reason why it doesn't sting so bad, right? Do you think that's it?
It could be part of it, yeah.
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 I mean, in all your years, you got to be contemplating this as well. It's
Right.
like, why are some people so affected while I'm not? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And any conclusions you came to, or
no.
just
I just seem to
live
be
and
able to
let be?
compartmentalize it, and
Yeah. I think that's it too. Is that another step to that is the ability to compartmentalize. Especially you had that in your experience with it being a paramedic.
Right.
So you were kind of predisposed to that
Right.
at the beginning. Yeah.
just wasn't used to trauma on that scale
Sure.
every single day, So
Yeah. So did it make being a paramedic on the civilian side just a cakewalk?
made it a lot easier, yeah.
No one's shooting at you.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. No.
It just depends on where you're.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at, but yeah.
Where you're
yeah.
at. Yeah. So you get out in 2013.
Yeah.
You go through about a year transition.
Right.
You're still a paramedic at the
Right,
time.
yeah.
So that helps you just
Yeah.
kind of reintegrate back a little bit. I think that's a huge thing
Yeah.
too. We mentioned the hobbies, right?
Right.
Isolation and no support system, it cultivates that environment of post-traumatic stress, anxiety disorder. So what kind of hobbies were you doing in the meantime?
I was doing a lot of motorcycle riding,
Okay.
and of course I love to hunt, fish, that kind of thing. So I was doing that and spent a lot of time with my kids,
There
so
you go. Keeps your head right.
yeah, yeah.
So you got out, yeah, like Dave said, 2013, and are you still you're still a flight paramedic today?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
So you're taking that to the end, huh?
yeah.
You're gonna do that until the wheels fall off?
Do that for about 2 more years, I hope. So
2 more years?
Yeah.
2 more
Okay.
years.
Yeah.
2 more years. Then what's next?
Going to retire, enjoy life,
Yeah.
That's right. Hunt and fish.
hunt and fish,
Hunt
and
and
camp.
fish.
That's right. Are you still engaged with the military at all?
No.
Did you stay? I know that experience had to be something that your leadership team did not want to let go. Did they ask you to do some extended work at the end, or
Not really, no. So
it was just out?
Just
Isn't
out.
that the weirdest feeling?
it is, yeah.
25 years
Yeah.
being indoctrinated into, this cult-like environment.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah, so
It really is, though.
And then just bringing it back to those that you dropped off, both on the civilian side and in the military side, did you think of any faces? Did anything come back to you, or was it just over?
no, I mean, yeah, they still come back to me at times, and
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah, and I'm sure the losses are hard too.
Yeah,
along
yeah,
the way.
yeah,
Those ones
so-
are the ones that resonate the most, I'm sure.
yeah.
But so, what's day to day look like now for you as a paramedic, flight paramedic?
I got a job where I work 2 weeks on, and I'm off 2 weeks.
Okay.
Oh, that's lovely.
So in my 2 weeks I work, I travel to 15 different states, so I get to travel, get the privilege of flying people that I don't know who they are, and stuff. So that makes it easier,
Yeah, do you ever get a chance to, on the civilian side, given this is a reconnection episode, do you ever get a chance to really follow up with some of the people you're picking up? Because on the military side, we're never really afforded that opportunity,
Right,
especially in combat, right?
Yeah, we didn't know names,
Yeah.
and stuff.
Nothing.
Yeah,
So are you afforded that opportunity more on the civilian side? Can you
I am,
call
yes,
the hospitals and follow up?
yeah.
Is that something that you routinely do, or is that something you have done?
It's something I have done. I try to
Okay.
do quite often. So
Yeah. Make sure that they're getting
yeah,
proper care throughout.
It's kind of something that Ryan was talking to us about is that, this is the most severe day they've ever faced in their life. And they're just so thankful. And, being rescued myself, having the opportunity to connect with those personnel that were on scene, you just think about them every single day, And it's just so routine for you. But do you feel that still? Do you understand that?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be potent as well.
yeah,
Just lost, like for me, I have no idea who it was. They're just like heroes under a banner,
Right.
So that's got to be a crazy one too, when you think about those faces and just
Right.
I wonder what they're doing now,
right. Yeah,
Yeah, that's got to be, that would keep me up at night sometimes.
Yeah, but I think it's also what puts the I don't want to say pride, but it's what puts the pride behind the Red Cross on the side of the helicopter,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't know who who picked you up, but it was a red cross on the side of a helicopter, which should make people who wear that, who sport that, who operate under that flag, should make them proud of what they do.
Right.
I know that I'm part of this group who saves lives. Same thing with the Green Feet, right? In rescue. Like I may not have had an impact on everyone's life, but I've had an impact on some people's, and it's proud to be associated with those things. So I mean, from your perspective, I'm sure it would change, Dave. I'm sure it would change a lot of things for you to meet the person who saved your life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
From our perspective, it's probably a little bit more weird, I guess. I don't know how I would feel if I met someone, who I had picked up. What are your thoughts on that? Are you looking forward to this reconnection? What is it going to do for you? Is that going to help close some doors or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Answer some questions.
Yeah.
It's so interesting hearing both sides of the story, the perspectives.
Yeah.
When Ryan talks about it, it's just like this in depth, every single detail from smelling the fuel and tasting the fuel, the dirt in his mouth and blah, blah, blah. And then to see your side of things where it's just like, this is the day in the life.
Yeah.
Right.
This is routine as it can be. And it's not even the most substantial rescue that I've done.
Yeah.
That's just perspective all in itself.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. And I mean, looking forward to the opportunity of letting you guys sit together for the first time in a while. Super exciting.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bernie, do you have anything that you want to leave for the audience? Any points of wisdom or encouragement?
I do not.
Nothing at all?
Oh,
you got something. You've been a paramedic for over 30 years, my friend. You got
how about
something.
like some inspiring words to those who are considering joining rescue or being a medic?
It's the best job ever.
I love it. Simple,
Yeah.
simple but elegant.
Yeah. Best job ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to save people's lives and make an impact where it counts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So
I think we're going to showcase that here very shortly.
awesome. Yeah.
Well, Bernie, we really appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us on the show. Thanks for
you for
coming all the
having
way
me.
out. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. We're really looking forward to the next one and watching you and Ryan get back together.
Awesome.
First
Thank you.
time in over 10 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming on and sharing.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
of course. This has been the Medevac podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching part 2 of 3 with our Reconnection episode with Bernie Copeland, Ryan Leighton. If you missed the first part, go back and check that out. The story is a little bit longer, but very, very detailed. And keep an eye out next week when we introduce these two gentlemen back to each other. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.